The Taliban has formed a new government in Afghanistan, and big surprise, it is filled with terrorists. And sorry, not a single female among them. It's so sexist. Their incoming cabinet includes 4 jihadis released from Gitmo by the Obama administration in exchange for U.S. Army deserter Bo Bergdahl back in 2014. Gee, who could have predicted this disastrous outcome?
Most of the people that are in Gitmo, maybe they were picked up in Afghanistan, but they've been picked up all over the world. They're terrorists. They're enemy combatants. They're not prisoners of war.
So basically what you have is a catch and release game with maniacs. It's okay to let them go, but you got to kill them when they get out of there because they're going to come back. It's insane. Ugh. Who is that gorgeous truth teller? Then there's the Taliban's new interior minister. He's wanted by the FBI with a $10 million bounty on his head, and he is believed to be holding at least one American hostage. And this, after saying just yesterday there was no hostage-like situation with the Taliban stopping Americans from leaving. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now changing his tune.
As of now, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. They claim that some of the passengers do not have the required documentation. Those flights need to be able to depart. And we will work every day to make sure that they're able to do that. We will continue to press the Taliban to allow the charters to leave.
You know, Dana, I love how the State Department was surprised and dismayed that it was an all-male cabinet. It's like they expected a brochure on diversity from a local college.
And then the statement that said, we're very disappointed. They're very concerned.
Yes.
It was like, strong letter to follow
yes.
to the Taliban. Like, if they thought they were going to be more friendly, that's like getting high on your own supply, if you know what I mean.
I bet you do know what you mean, Dana.
Yesterday, you brought up the point that we have to ban the phrase, the world is watching. Like, the world is averting its eyes.
Right.
Because now what's the world going to do? When these characters put together their government, that not only do they have the detainees from the Bo Bergdahl exchange, but they also have invited some countries to the ceremony. And the countries are Russia, China, and Iran.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's happening.
That's amazing. We weren't even asked.
I don't know if we were on the list, maybe. And I also feel that with Secretary Blinken's comments there, one, we talked about this semantics over the word hostage yesterday.
Right.
And at this point, I'm like, okay, so there are people that can come to America. They've got their paperwork. Might be American citizens amongst the group, also people who helped Americans. And the Taliban won't let them go. To me, that's the definition. If you look up in Webster's, that is the definition. And I think he's a soft-spoken person. It would be nice to see a little fire and a little determination that, yes, we are going to get the people back.
They seem like they don't know what to do. They're in a quagmire, a word I just came up with. Jessica, I noticed in the new cabinet not a single trans individual. What have you to say about this?
What I'm most upset about, about the situation currently. It was kind of like, you know, when a new administration comes in, but they're never actually like a new administration because they're holdovers from the last time there was a Republican or a Democrat. And this is like the greatest hits of terrorists from the 1990s, right? Like people who went into bunkers, essentially, for 20, 30 years, and now they're back in there in prominent positions. And Dana, you referenced Russia, China, and Iran getting the invitation to the inauguration. Well, the rest of the world can't come because we'll be thinking about the lives that we lost on 9/11 because they're doing it on 9/11, which is probably the greatest troll of all time. You know, as we're sitting here having this somber moment as our allies who went to war with us over what happened when we lost 3,000 plus Americans in one day, and then obviously, you know, near countless lives since then. It's terrible. It's a hardliner government, and the people are sitting on these planes. What do you do? I mean, you're ready to go. Obviously, the paperwork, they're lying that they don't have the right paperwork. No one got on those flights without it. But it's government planes, and then it's also charter jets. Like Glenn Beck had a bunch of planes that were held back. He was paying $750,000 per plane. Couldn't get them off the ground a couple days ago. It's really a diplomatic disaster at this point.
Yeah, it's beyond belief. And when you think about Bo Bergdahl, Dagan, I mean, you know, we knew that was going to happen, and now it's happening. Now they're in charge. That trade
for a deserter.
Yeah.
I am just astonished by the language. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised by the language that Tony Blinken is using, that they were dismayed that the Taliban interim government wasn't inclusive. And he's calling them, they have challenging track records. Listen, the Taliban is horrible and evil, and they will always be horrible and evil. There is no born-again Taliban. And that's who we just surrendered to. That with the greatest dishonor, and now putting our Americans and our allies in the gravest danger, even here at home. But this goes, in terms of the language, this goes to what Carter did with the Soviet Union, Clinton did it with Al-Qaeda, Obama did it with Iran. They act like, well, everyone, if we just maybe hope and not pray, because that's evil, right? That they'll just evolve into good Democrats. That if you treat them, say, like with Iran, if you just treat them like a normal Western government, then if you treat them like Britain, then they will be Britain. And that just, it doesn't happen. Regular folks, you always talk about the rubes and the rednecks and the hayseeds with love. And if you talk to them, we know, looking at a rogue or a reprobate, that you can't treat them like a normal dude, because they will come at you and they will steal from you because they're a rogue and a reprobate. But these people in the Biden administration don't seem to know that about a terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's like dating somebody. You can't change them. They're going to be a terrorist no matter what. You know, Jesse, when I told you that the Taliban also banned sports for girls, you said, now there's something I could get behind. I couldn't.
Which sports? All sports?
All sports, yes.
I think they should be able to play some, not all.
Oh, there you go.
So if I could go back in time
Yes.
and change one thing, what do you think that would be? I'll answer it for you. All time. I would go back in time and make sure that Barack Obama was never president. I don't know how I'd do it, but here's why. It's like you killed two birds with one stone, because if Barack wasn't president, then Joe Biden wouldn't be president. Butterfly effect. Book was better than the movie. Think about what Barack Obama did in Afghanistan. Even I can't even take myself seriously. No, my friend's brother produced the movie, though. He's the one that surged 100,000 troops into Afghanistan. He was the one that nation built. He was the one that trained the Afghan army. He was the one that got hoodwinked by the Pakistanis, that bin Laden was just hiding there in plain sight. He was the one that sold us on all this great progress there that was a mirage. He was the one that traded 5 Taliban commanders for a deserter. I'm not sure. 4 of them are now back.
Right.
I don't know what the other one's doing. He's like assistant to the regional commander in Afghanistan. And Barack Obama was supposed to be the smart one. Remember, Joe Biden was the joke, Obama was smart, and now the joke's president. The joke's on us. How stupid do the feds look? The feds put Trump campaign officials behind bars, and then they released the Taliban. The feds framed Carter Page for colluding with the Russians, yet the FBI's most wanted terrorist in Afghanistan is colluding with Al-Qaeda, is holding an American citizen hostage, and Joe Biden wouldn't even call him the enemy, doesn't want to offend the enemy. So they're now upset there's no women in the government. There's an Onion article. Joe Biden thinks he can Me Too the Taliban. The world is watching. Who's the world? The mullahs don't have women in the cabinet. Do the Saudis have women? They're concerned. Blinken, Anthony, where's the H? Maybe that's why he lacks the fire. There's no H.
Oh my God.
Instead of being so concerned about the gender of the Taliban cabinet, be concerned about stranded Americans.
Look, you know, I was just going to say, Biden doesn't like the Taliban because it's hard to sniff hair under a burqa.
Oh, Greg.
Yes.
That wasn't the reputation I was looking for.
Yes.
I know we have very limited time. There was a lot of stuff that just flew out of Jesse's mouth. So if you could go back in time and you could undo one thing, I sincerely doubt that would be making Barack Obama president.
The first thing. It'd be the first thing. I get to some other stuff after.
Okay. The surge is widely looked upon in all political circles, actually, as being one of the most successful parts, actually, of the war on terror.
In Iraq.
But that was in 07.
In Iraq, not necessarily in Afghanistan.
Okay. Well, we'll get other people on the show to talk about that. Okay, we have to go, but basically everything that you said was kind of absurd.
This might have been the best discussion ever about Afghanistan.
In the history.
Yes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.